live picture or something?
Just streaming it.
Okay.
Streaming anything. Well,
baseball cap on here? No. Do you think that'd be all right? No. No baseball. Yeah, it's fine.
not on.
Can we scoot back at all so I'm not in the middle of the, or no?
What's your thoughts, Frank?
It's about time. It's emotional out here. Very emotional.
Well, I mean, do you have, I mean, I want the courthouse behind us, so if we need to move down to the corner, we can move down to the corner.
Well, if we go that way, it'll even be worse. We cannot look. Gonna move down to the other corner?
I don't care, we gotta make up our mind, because we gotta,
How long do we have?
I don't know.
Hey,
Hey,
guilty, all counts.
I didn't know what the plan was. I'm with Eldon.
Ready to move?
Okay, are we breaking in? Yeah, if we're gonna move, we gotta move now.
Tell
Okay.
me, we have time?
Just, he doesn't like the sun behind me.
I mean, we can't shoot it.
Okay, okay, go. Go, go, go. They're going. Welcome to the other corner. We gotta get the shot up like now, though.
2-1.
Am I calling into the ISD? Am I? Okay, I'm calling in now.
1-1-2-1.
Okay, calling in back.
Fine.
Okay, we gotta get dialed in like now. They're asking for us.
Text to me about.
Do you have the microphone?
You got it right there.
I'm on ISD. I'm trying. I mean, I was the last person out of the courtroom. A white balance, please. White balance.
The mic out there.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Stand by. Mark, after about 19 hours of deliberating for the jury, they found Richard Allen guilty on all 4 charges in the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. More than 7.5 years of waiting for the family of Abby and Libby. And I can tell you, when the verdict was read, Everyone was crying, both Richard Allen's family and Abby and Libby's family. Many members of Libby's family kind of saying yes when that first count of guilty verdict was read. Those 4 charges: count 1, felony murder, found guilty on all 4 counts. Count 1, felony murder for the death of Abigail Williams. Count 2, felony murder for the death of Liberty German. Count 3 for the killing of Abigail Williams, and count 4 for the killing of Liberty German. Something the family has been waiting for 7.5 years to hear. When the verdict was read, the family, as I just mentioned, started crying, started hugging each other, and just as the family was about to leave after the jury read their verdict, it only took a couple of minutes for that to be read. Many of the family members were hugging investigators. Investigators were crying. The prosecution team was crying, but they also were smiling. These were obvious happy tears. It's a lot. It's a lot for this family to be dealing with for all this time, waiting 19 hours or so to hear that verdict. And after the verdict was read, the defense team actually asked for a roll call from every single one of the jury members to confirm that it was their belief that Richard Allen was to be found guilty on all 4 charges. The entire 12-person jury answered the judge saying yes, that was their verdict. Now, when it was read, Richard Allen's family, they were seen crying. Richard Allen's wife could not get up. She sat in her chair. She couldn't get up. Richard Allen's mother also struggling to stand up, having to be held up by family members, and even parts of the defense team were wrapping their arms around the Allen family. As for Richard Allen himself, he was sitting down, showed no emotion when that verdict was read, emotionless the entire time as all 4 counts were read in this case against him. Now, prosecutor Nicholas McLeland laid out a timeline from February 13th of 2017, and in that timeline, the prosecutor told the jury that Richard Allen put himself on the trail that day. They said that Richard Allen, when he was confessing more than 60 times, had information that only the killer would know. And they said in those confessions, Richard Allen was detailing what happened in this crime. And there also was that bullet found at the crime scene, the jury ultimately siding with the prosecution. The expert witness for the prosecution saying that the bullet found at the crime scene between Abby and Libby's bodies had been cycled through Richard Allen's gun. The defense said it was an untrusted science, but of course the jury deciding that it should be trusted, and I'm sure that's one of the pieces of evidence the jury considered. A number of phone call interviews, a number of video of Richard Allen inside of his cell that the defense said he was mentally unwell, the jury deciding otherwise. Again, the family escorted out together, but all of the family just kind of holding each other today. And it's a bit of a celebration for those family members of Abby and Libby. And of course, very hard for Richard Allen's family to understand that Richard Allen is going to be sentenced and found guilty on all 4 charges. His sentencing is set for December, later in December, where he will be sentenced on all 4 of those charges. But again, Richard Allen has been found guilty on all 4 counts in the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. Mark. His demeanor, Mark, has kind of been the same throughout this entire trial. He hasn't really shown any emotion. It's been kind of expressionless, if you will. When the verdict was being read, it was much of the same. He sat there with his defense attorney, Andrew Baldwin, was rubbing the back of his head and was patting him on the back. But Richard Allen showed no emotion himself. And so it's kind of what we've seen come from Richard Allen throughout this entire trial. After that happened, Richard Allen was then handcuffed and escorted out of the courtroom as his family watched that happen and as Abby and Libby's family watched that happen. Yeah, there was 100 people or so wanting an opportunity to head inside of the courthouse. I was one of the lucky ones who got a chance to step inside, but stepping out, it's a lot of emotions. A lot of people from Richard Allen's arrest believe that police had the wrong guy. Ultimately, the jury deciding that was not the case. But many people thought that there was just circumstantial evidence. It wasn't enough to convict Richard Allen, but the jury thought otherwise. Despite circumstantial evidence or not, the jury thought that the prosecution had enough.
Trial, the jury finding Richard Allen guilty on all counts. Again, that word just in here this afternoon on this case. Allen is now convicted of killing teenagers Abby Williams and Libby German near a hiking trail in the small town of Delphi in 2017. Now, the jury started deliberating Thursday of last week. Altogether, about 4 days, roughly 20 hours of deliberations, and coming in this afternoon with this verdict of guilty on all counts. Prosecutors throughout the trial have said Allen confessed to the murders many, many times. His defense team argue that Allen has mental health issues that became worse during his time in custody. They also said that there is very little physical evidence connecting Allen to the crime scene. Now, this case has shocked and haunted the small town of Delphi, Indiana, with about only 3,000 residents. Now, the case remained a mystery for over 5 years until Allen was arrested. Allen was a pharmacy technician who had lived and worked in the small town of Delphi. The jurors were brought in from a different area. They were sequestered since the beginning of this trial, roughly around the middle of October. And again, after 4 days of deliberations, roughly 20 hours together, this jury finding Richard Allen guilty on all counts. I have goosebumps just saying this because this is a case that we all have been covered since the very beginning, and we have been waiting for this verdict for the last few days. We will have much more coverage of this highly anticipated verdict coming up on ABC Eyewitness News at 4 o'clock, and we will jump back on stream as we get more information as well. For now, I'm Judy Sue in the ABC 7 newsroom. I'll see you at 4.
This has been an ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
His family's not. His family was bawling their eyes out. Abby and Libby's family crying happy tears. At the very end, the prosecution team and the investigators, they were all hugging each other, and everyone was just so happy, hugging the family. Doug Carter was in there. He was crying too. He was kind of the head person, superintendent of ISP, bawling his eyes out. He was happy. Jerry Holman was also crying happy tears. That's really about it. Oh, they asked for a roll call. The defense asked for a roll call, and had every single juror read off their verdict, and every single juror said, yes, that was their.
Tell him I got video of Kathy and them.
Of Kathy and them leaving? Oh,
Yeah.
we got video of Kathy Allen leaving.
I got it on my
Rachel
phone.
did.
Ross got the family.
The family already came out and talked?
Yeah, Raphael had his phone right in front of his face. They're already gone.
Okay. Then I messaged him. Apparently, Rafael Sanchez got the family. I'm going to try to call Becky Patty. That's about it. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to call. Okay, bye. Apparently, Raphael had his phone in Becky's face when she walked out and talked to her.
Huh?
Freaking kidding me.
Who did that?
Raphael.
And she talked to him?
Yep.
Becky, it's that way. I remember.
I know. Well, I would have said for everybody to give me some space.
Who did you do that to?
Don't tell them.
Huh?
Is that what you had to carry it on?
No, it's bullshit.
I don't know if they.
Okay, so I started a Facebook group on
Let's see.
2/14 and 27. So supposedly I was finding that group for 45,000.
Huh?
And the group was started.
Sure.
I honestly thought within a month we'd have an arrest. You know, you never thought that it would drag out that long. But through this Facebook group, it grew and it grew, and we helped with the fundraisers, made sure that got stuff. Don't forget about Libby's shoebox that her and her mom did before, Abby's, I'm sorry. And I knew we would come to the day where we could say today is the day, and we reached it. But through this Facebook group, you're allowed to express your opinions and stuff. We all are. But ultimately, our opinions don't matter. It was the 12 men and women in that box. And also, if any of you in the state of Indiana, I am pushing legislation, and they're working on a bill that would prohibit the release of photos of these two beautiful girls at the crime scene and pathologist report and the pathologist photos. So if you know any state legislators, please push for that. They're looking for a level 6 felony as a punishment because our baby girls should never be sold or put behind a paywall. So that's about most
What was your initial reaction when they came out and you found out?
I just I don't know why in my gut I felt we got to felony murder. I thought maybe the hang-up was on the murder, but I just sat out here and prayed this morning. People say you're sitting here by yourself with a sign for Abby and Libby, and I thought, it only takes one voice. And through that one voice, we were able, I truly believe in the system. I think a lot of people owe the law enforcement.
Really, this is just going to be more of a scramble. There's nothing. So obviously everybody has already got the news of the verdict. With that being said, Judge Gull has not lifted the gag order, so we're not going to be able to make any type of public statement at this point. We'll be looking forward to having something scheduled a month from now following sentencing. So with that, that's all that we're going to be able to say at this time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Eldon, can we come back?
Knock it out.
Yeah, back out because they're coming back to me. Eldon, I'm right here. Let's just go right here. It's okay if media's behind me, I don't care. Hi, guys. Yeah.
This is Lynn.
Sorry, Caitlin, I'm trying not to get
We
her
love
away.
us some Lynn. Her daughter Kara was on earlier. So. Follow you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, they're coming to me next. Yeah, actually, Mark and Nicole, the judge said before we started going, someone is going to be unhappy with the verdict. And that is absolutely the case. When you have two families involved here, really three families, Abby and Libby's family involved and Richard Allen's family involved, someone is bound to be unhappy with this. I can tell you that if you'll remember, Special Judge Fran Gull placed a gag order on this case, meaning anyone involved in this case was not allowed to talk. We were just informed by Indiana State Police the gag order is still in effect. It'll be in effect until at least December 20th when Richard Allen is sentenced. Now, he could be sentenced up to 130 years for these 4 murder charges. Again, if you are just now tuning in, found guilty on all 4 charges here. The first 2 on the felony counts and the second 2 on the murders of Abby and Libby. But I did have an opportunity, Mark, you mentioned it, talking with the families extensively throughout the trial and before the trial. And I'll never forget Kathy Allen. The first time I saw her was the very first court appearance after Richard Allen was arrested. And I told her to hang in there. And she looked at me and she said, he's my person. I don't know how I'm supposed to forget that. And she kind of has been there every step of the way. She's been by his side. And when the verdict was read, Kathy Allen was crying. She had to actually be assisted up by people. She was unable to even stand on her own. And the same for his mother and for other members of the defense team, really struggling. Richard Allen himself, though, was showing no emotion. When the verdict was read, he remained emotionless. His defense attorney, Andrew Baldwin, had his arm around him and was patting his back and rubbing the back of his head, but Richard Allen showed no emotion. On the other side, though, Abby and Libby's families, they were joyous, they were happy, they were crying, hugging one another, and being embraced by the prosecution and by many investigators. Superintendent Doug Carter, as many of you have seen, he's been really vocal before the arrest of Richard Allen, saying that they would find the person responsible. He was inside the courtroom with his wife, and he was emotional.
On all counts in this case, Allen is now convicted of killing teenagers Abby Williams and Libby German near a hiking trail in the small town in Delphi, Indiana in 2017. Right now, we're joined by Chicago Kent law professor Harold Krentz to kind of walk us through a little bit about this verdict and also what happens from here on until sentencing. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor. First of all, your reaction to this verdict coming on day 4 of deliberations, roughly 20 hours later.
No, I'm not surprised, but then again, obviously the jury wrestled with this quite deeply, and they know that it's a very solemn occasion to send somebody to for murder or convict them for murder, and so they deliberated very carefully before they made their final decision.
I do want to ask you about the confessions. You and I had a chance to chat just a little bit before coming on live here, and you mentioned that that was the focal point here and probably a focal point for the jury in the deliberation room. You know, as you know, in this case, that the prosecutor said, hey, listen, this guy confessed almost 60 times to different people, family members and staff at the jail. But the defense was arguing that he had suffered from a serious mental illness when he was making these confessions. What do you make of all of that? And clearly very crucial in this case.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the defendant has some kind of abnormality, and I'm not able to diagnose it, and I'm sure you can't either. Probably ascertain. The jury has forced to grapple with the fact: is this person delusional? Or, on the other hand, did this person really commit the crimes, and that's why he was confessing crimes to many people in jail, and to family members as well?
There was you broke up just a little bit there in the very beginning, but I also want to ask you. I want to stay on this question. There was no actual DNA evidence in this case. How often, in cases that you have seen, you know, does a case come down to just sort of this confession that both sides have to work with?
I mean, confession was pivotal here. It is often pivotal, but DNA evidence helps because it's such important scientific evidence placing an individual at the crime scene. And the lack of that suggested that the confession was all the more important here. There was some other kinds of evidence in terms of clothing, in terms of the video that took center stage as well. But it's on all likelihood, the jury simply couldn't get past the fact that the confessions were made, and they pointed to somebody who was very sick, in what we would consider sick, but not too sick to escape the law.
Sentencing is now scheduled for December, later in the month of December. What can we expect between now and then?
Not much. The defense attorney and the prosecutor will both be preparing to look at sort of aggravating and mitigating circumstances, you know, whether in terms of a mental illness, whether it's in terms of life issues that took its toll on Mr. Allen. They'll be looking at all of those things, and then it'll be up for the judge to make a sentence. And under Indiana, there are 18 aggravating factors that permit a judge to impose the death penalty. And so they'll be arguing whether any of these 18 factors exist. They probably do, but on the other hand, Indiana also has a law that says if someone is seriously mentally ill, they cannot be subject to the death penalty. So both prosecution and the defense will have ammunition to try to persuade the judge as to how long the sentence should be, and indeed whether the death penalty should be invoked.
And could Allen's attorneys file an appeal in this case?
Appeal will be filed. One of the big issues that will be is the judge excluded evidence that the murders were exacted by a cult. And the judge said that there was not sufficient evidence that a cult was operating near Delphi, and so excluded it as being just confusing to the jury. And so that's going to be a principal line of appeal for the defendant, but it'll only take place after sentencing.
All right. Chicago Ken Law Professor Harold Kren, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, walking us through a little bit of this verdict that just came down in the Delphi murders trial. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Take care.
All right. Again, this verdict just in this afternoon, guilty on all counts for Richard Allen in the double murder case in Delphi, Indiana. Obviously, a case that has shocked the small town of Delphi, that entire town now probably reacting to what happened in court. I can tell you right now from those observers in the courtroom that Richard Allen did not react to this verdict, that he was described as stoic when the verdict was read. Allen's mom and wife were there, and that they were seen sobbing after the verdict was read, and that some family members in court of the girls who were murdered audibly said yes in court. We have a team on the way to Delphi, of course, and we will have team coverage for you this afternoon on what happened here with this verdict coming in from Delphi, Indiana. For now, I'm Judy Sue in the ABC 7 newsroom, and I will see you on our news at 4 o'clock.
This has been an ABC 7 Eyewitness News special report.
North section is the north. I seen everybody just the roar of everybody. I was just chilled, and I was like, amazing, this is it. And I knew when I woke up this morning, I said, today's going to be the day. It's got to be the day. I mean, we've been waiting for this, and I am satisfied with all that's being done. I'm sorry to the jury that had to go through all of this mental pain that they had to go through to endure it. I mean, but in the long run, they did their job. Nick McClellan, you've done a wonderful job. Indiana State Troopers, FBI, when they first came through, they done great, but again, they got pushed out of the way. Maybe there's a good reason. I mean, I support the FBI. I support our local officers. Officer Decker that just went by is one of our greatest officers. I love him. This is a great town. I mean, that's why we got people coming here. They love it. They don't even want to leave. It's peaceful.
Thank you so much for your time.
So peaceful. Okay.